Have you ever experienced a God wink? You know, the kind of experience you know without a shadow of a doubt that God stepped in and gave you a big old wink from heaven. I'm your host, Cindy Spar, broadcasting from Office Evolution in Troy, Michigan. I am the founder of My Collective Network and My Christian Business Network, two amazing business networking organizations. I am a firm believer that there is power in sharing God wink stories. Think of it as a way for people to shine their light on Jesus, one wink at a time. In Matthew 5:14, it says, "You are the light of the world. A city set on a hill cannot be hidden. Nor do people light a lamp and put it under a basket, but on a stand, and it gives light to all in the house. In the same way, let your light shine before others, so that they may see your good works and give glory to your Father who is in heaven." Welcome back, listeners, to the God Wink Podcast. This is Cindy Spar. I'm coming live from Office Evolution in Troy, Michigan. And I brought a friend with me. He traveled from a far, far away land. I have with me Cory Dunham. And Cory, what area are you from?
From the Ann Arbor area in Michigan.
Michigan. So state fans just hate your guts.
That's okay. That's okay. Since we've taken some championships, that's okay.
Oh, yeah. See, my husband's all about Michigan, so he would love it. But listeners, I want to just share a little bit about Cory. So Cory and I actually met on a virtual essence. He became part of My Christian Business Network and then came out to the Discipleship Exchange. And I remember when you signed up, Cory, I started researching. I don't think I've ever met this gentleman, and I'm curious. So I went on your LinkedIn, and I remember Cory Dunham, she's like, he is amazing. Have you looked at this guy's LinkedIn? Like, he looks like he's got his stuff together when it comes to coaching and speaking. So real quick, Cory is a faith-driven specific executive leadership coach. He's a speaker, entrepreneur who turns outward success into deep purpose, passion, and peace. Oh, I love it. As founder of Cory Dunham Leadership, he equips high-achieving executives, founders, and mission-minded teams to lead with clarity, build habits that last, and live fully at work and beyond. Cory partners with leaders who look accomplished on paper, yet they're wrestling with a burnout or a sense that there's more. Through his coaching, keynote talks, and immersive workshops, he helps them realign with their core values, reigniting passion and creating transformation from the inside out. As a marketing agency owner, a nonprofit board member, and lifelong mentor, Cory brings grounded experience and an authentic voice to every engagement, living what he teaches in faith, family, adventure, and service. So, Cory, thank you so much for joining me here on the podcast today.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate being here.
Well, I always ask this question. I'm a nosy podcast host. Yep. Who is Cory outside of the biz?
Outside of the biz, I would say I'd love to have fun. I'm a family man, married 25 years at this point, almost 26.
Congrats.
Coming up in August. Thank you. And I love relationships, which is very different than how I grew up, being kind of an introverted person to myself, more into the tech stuff, and didn't really like people that much. But over time, through experiences and being challenged, I've learned that oh my gosh, I love hanging around people. I love being around people and then being able to impact them.
Wow. It's crazy. On the outside, if I looked at you, I'm like, I don't see any introvert whatsoever, but you probably leave a networking event and you're exhausted.
I used to be.
Okay.
I used to be. So I think God has changed me over time, because a lot of people have said that to me. And I said, yeah, you're right. I used to be for the first probably 15, 20 years of networking that I've been involved with that. But after a while, it's like, oh my gosh, as I've leaned into it and looked at it as a God calling me to be on a bigger platform or to be out there communicating and interfacing with people. And now I get energized in most cases after events when I'm presenting or doing different things. And I think piece of that too is that, I've accomplished this, because for so long I felt I cannot do this. I'm not a people person. I'm not a speaker. I'm not this. I'm not that. And I never really tapped into that identity that Christ and God sees me through, as I call a God filter, looking through them to see what they see when they look at me.
So this was more of a God calling then, like to where he was trying to draw you out of your comfort zone?
I think, out of my comfort zone in many different ways. And as we were talking before, I have a private pilot's license that I've had for 30-something years. And a lot of things that either I've accomplished or some of the skills I've learned, I should not be here, because growing up just with a pilot's license, I did not like heights. I did not like roller coasters, and I would get car sick half the time.
It's a bad combination.
Yes. But through flying and building remote control model airplanes in the late 80s in high school for me, and then being around other people where some of those remote control pilots, they basically said, I have a real pilot's license. I'm like, what? What's going on here? So that created an interest or curiosity in me to check that out. I'm like, that would be kind of fun. But let me check this out. And when I did, I took my first lesson at the age of 22, roughly, at the end of my college career at Eastern Michigan. And after that lesson, I had to lay down because I was so nauseous for the whole afternoon, evening. Oh. But the next day I woke up, I was like, that's the coolest thing I've ever done. And just by taking one lesson of flying a week, I was able to finish my private pilot's license in about a year or 13 months, roughly.
Wow. And from what I remember, and this was back in recruiting days at Eastern, aren't they known for their pilot program, or no? No,
actually not, as far as I remember. They had back then, 30 years ago, an aviation, I think, administration building and degree you could get, but there was no flight training as far as I know.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah. So I don't know how long ago, but my son, who's just turned 23, he just got his private pilot's license through Eastern and the affiliated training program that they have through that. So he just did that. But the funny part is, at the time, I was taking lessons at Ann Arbor Airport, which is where the University of Michigan is.
Plug.
And that was my last year at school. And I think I forget what you need to graduate. I think it's 120 credit hours at Eastern. But I think I had 117. And I just happened to ask them, like, will you take my flight training and my written test as credit, since you guys have an aviation administration school, but will you take that outside information that I took the test? And they said, yep, if it's 80% above, we'll take it, and we'll give you 3 credits for it, as if like it was a class. I'm like, oh my gosh, so I didn't have to pay for that again.
Wow.
And I got the 3 credits, and I think I graduated exactly with 120, as far as I remember at this point in time.
Well, you're taking these little pebbles of, this isn't maybe aviation isn't the best thing for you, but pebble upon pebble, you were just like, I'm accomplishing this.
Yes. And through that, through some of the challenges, like I said, of being nauseous and things, it helped me to realize, I feel at that young age, that there's going to be a lot of things in life where we are not comfortable. We don't feel like we're skilled at it. It's challenging. You're not excited to do any of it. And some of those things I wasn't excited to do as a pilot, but once I got going, it started feeding off on itself. And I realized that my body actually got accustomed to some of the motion and all that. So near the end, when I was consistent, my body didn't react to those things. And it was actually fun to be in a bumpy airplane ride sometimes. Whereas before that, I'd be like, oh my gosh, I'm going to die. This is what I felt like. But the coolest part is to realize that if we, a lot of things that God calls us to, they're not going to be easy. But if we trust in Him, we keep taking steps forward, you're going to develop some skills, you're going to develop some competencies that are going to work for you in the future. You may not know how and why, but that was one of the earlier events in my life. Let me know that, hey, Cory, if you choose to do something, it doesn't matter what it is, you can accomplish it for whatever goal you have, or you don't have to, but don't keep running from things that are challenging. And I look at that as like the Job story.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, not Job. What's his name? Oh my gosh, it's not Job. I'm thinking, I was just talking about that with somebody else. It's, the whale, the fish.
Oh, yeah.
Jonah. Yeah, that's why. His cousin Jonah.
I'm the worst team player. You're waiting for, like, phone a friend, and I'm just like, "Durr."
That's so funny. Well, when that came out of our mouth, I'm like, that's not Job. It's Jonah. Jonah's story of trying to run from things when God is calling you. And I feel like that's been several decades in my life of running from things. And I've heard him for a long time, but finally I started listening more and more over time, and especially in these last couple of years with some of the challenges, big things going on family-wise and at work all over. And it's like, wait a minute. I thought I was doing well here. What's going on?
Shaking it up.
Yep.
And how else? I can't even talk today. How else are you going to lean into Christ unless he puts you in the uncomfortable where you got to lean on him for the help? And I think we go through seasons where it's smooth sailing. And when the seas get rough, it's like, oh, this is not comfortable. Did I do something wrong? Why am I going through this? Look at it in a positive aspect of it's like a refining.
Yes.
You know?
I totally agree. And I think a lot of that too is I was thinking, man, look at me, I'm so successful, I'm doing so well, life is great, I have a great family, finances are good, all this kind of stuff going on. But then they come to realize that's not the important stuff. That's okay and that's good, but that's not the most important thing. Yeah. So I've had this way deeper and stronger faith walk over the last couple of years. I feel way better and more excited about my future now than I have before when I was just artificially. I felt artificially like I was successful and things were going well, but it was kind of empty.
Yeah. There's a lot of people. You ever meet either business owners or people that work in corporate America as they talk? It's like you can feel that there's still a hole there, but it pays the bills or whatever it may be, right?
Right.
I wanted to ask you, you had shared something with me of how you started really having a sense of boldness, and it was on simple things on what you would wear around your neck.
Oh, yes. Yeah, I just started wearing a cross in the last year and a half at this point. So that was back in January of 2024 when I asked my family I'm like, hey, for Christmas, can you give me a cross to wear? You know, because most of my life I've felt uncomfortable, always focused on myself, never on Christ as much as I should have, but focused on myself and my insecurities. Like, ooh, I'm going to get canceled, or people are going to look at me and not want to talk to me because I had a cross on. So I've never worn jewelry, never been into that anyway. But I thought this is a way I need to first have this on me, and it's a way for people to see automatically before they even talk to me that I'm a Christian and whose I am and where I come from and where my identity comes from. So that was important to me to start doing that. And I did a few other things back in January, a year and a half ago, too, to get myself out there, a little more confidence, because I'm like, what am I waiting around for? Waiting around my whole life. I'm like, what am I waiting for since I'm 56 now, I'm like, I'm going to wait till I'm 60. If I get that much time, I'm going to wait till I'm 70 to start doing things, speaking out, and creating really this impact. I felt God was saying, Cory, you need to reach more people instead of staying behind your computer and just playing small, as somebody else said, small potatoes.
Yeah. It's so different on a spiritual aspect to even explain maybe to a non-believer of how exponentially better your life is when you're walking. You may not have like exponential financial, gain that you may have had or you may, but the walk you're taking of the eternal route of being an ambassador for Christ in all actuality. I'm just curious with wearing the necklace, because I've seen a lot of people wear a cross necklace, and I'm like, ooh, you just opened the gate to have a Jesus conversation. And when I try, there's no like relatability that like some people just wear a cross.
Right.
But what has been your experience? Has anyone ever entered into a conversation with you about wearing it?
I've had, surprisingly, it's been way better than expected in that I've had people like I'm at McDonald's sitting down just eating a French fry or something inside, and just some random people that'll walk by and it's like, hey, I like that. And I'm like, what? And they point at me and I look behind. I'm like, oh, what are you talking about? Or who are you talking about? Because nobody ever compliments me as part of my psyche.
Yeah.
Nobody's talking to me. Nobody's complimenting me. But they said, you're cross. They said, we need more of that. We need more of that. Oh. And I'm like, oh, wow, that's awesome. And other people, hey, I like your necklace. I like your necklace. I'm like, oh, well, thank you. So it's been a conversation started there. And it's also allowed, in my case, since I've kind of been very reserved in many different ways and not as outgoing or extroverted. So therefore, it allowed people to come to me. And maybe this is a way God was saying, hey, Cory, watch what happens when you put on this cross. Just trust in me for these results and what's going to happen here. And the only funny thing I've ever had happen, I call it funny, is that I think on LinkedIn a year or year and a half ago, after I started wearing this, and also have on my LinkedIn account that I'm faith-based and all other kinds of things, that out of everybody who's talked to me, I've gotten also positive response on LinkedIn, but there was one response from a profile that I was outreaching to, and they didn't have a picture, they didn't have a description on their profile, but they messaged back with no picture and no description, and they said, I don't need you or Christ or anything like that. I'm the devil. Mm. And that's all they said. And I burst out laughing when I saw that. I'm like, this person took the time to say this. I'm like, that's cool. The devil has a face or has a LinkedIn account. You know, the largest business platform on the planet, over 1.1 billion members. And I just thought that was funny. Whereas 2 years ago, when I was kind of hiding, at that point, I probably would have cried. Probably not literally, but, just like, oops, maybe I'm in the wrong place. Maybe I'm doing the wrong thing.
Oh, yeah.
So
it's funny how they always say there's trolls out there. There's going to be some kind of troll that's going to say something. And I haven't really experienced it, but I've had people when the Christian Network was launching, they were like, you sure you want to do that? Because, I mean, you could have more success if you take religion out of it. Because religion kind of pushes some people out. And I'm like, what am I here for, though? To hide my identity. I'm not shoving it on people saying you're going to hell, you're a sinner, you need Jesus. I'm just being a light that shines of acting in God's values.
Yes.
So I was going to ask you that question with LinkedIn because there's this separation, what is it, church and state or whatever it may be, that LinkedIn is like just meant for business.
Right.
And Rob Stein, one of the people on the team, he had done a post, but he's got a nonprofit called Fathers in Christ. So, I don't know what they wanted from him, but he had a similar thing where this profile of the individual was, quote, human. That's what it said under their picture, human. And, Rob was just curious and was looking at work history and stuff, and it looks like there's been quite a bit of movement that's happened, But he made a statement because Rob worked for a company that he left recently. And I guess the individual didn't notice he had left the position, even though it said it on LinkedIn. And he said, that company pays your bills. Pretty much not God. That company pays your bills. And he says, well, I'm not with that company. And in essence, God is the creator anyways. He's the ultimate boss.
Yes.
Right? But I think that if we don't speak out, we're robbing the potential of reaching people and impacting people. People are hungry to see positivity out there, to see a light. And who are we to not shine it because we're worried about offending somebody by being who we are?
Yes. Yeah, and I've had to wrestle with that too. And the other piece of that too is what I'm finding, the more people I talk to, is there are a lot of people who are Christians out there who are afraid based upon what we're seeing out in the media, the streaming channels, all this kind of stuff. And come to find out, which I thought, Like I said, I thought I was going to get canceled. People were going to say bad. Like, at this point in my life, I'm like, I've got to trust in God because I've gotten to this point only because of God, only because of Christ and that love that he has for me. And if I'm going to still bet on myself over betting on what God can accomplish in my life or who he can affect, it's not just me, where that's all I was thinking about before, but it's the impact on other people, setting an example, and just doing what Christ asks us to do, to be disciples, and not to worry about the result. He didn't say, make everybody Christians, don't leave this planet until you're done. He doesn't say that. He just says, have faith in me, trust in me, and my word will make things happen. Yeah. What I want to have happen is going to happen. Yeah. And just a quick side note, too, I look at it as similar to like a football team or Super Bowl. If I'm going to be on any team that's going to the Super Bowl every stinking year, I want to be on that team where I'm guaranteed to win. And even, I'm not saying life is going to be easy or things are going to be easy along the way, but I am guaranteed to be a win when I'm on God's team, when I'm with Christ. And so that's what I look at. I'm like, wow. So, and as some of the scripture talks about, who or what can be against me when I'm with Christ. And that's pretty powerful. Yeah. And to think our lives are really just a blink of an eye, because most of us don't remember our great-great-great-grandparents or even our great-grandparents. Yeah. And probably haven't had too much communication with our grandparents if they're still around or even before that. Yeah. So the whole idea is that life is really short and there's an eternity after that that's like, oh my gosh, this is just almost like the warm-up in a sense. I'm not saying you go through life like it's a warm-up and you got a do-over, but I'm just saying it's such a short period of time, and I think living authentically and living with values, and especially from the Christian values of serving your neighbor, if somebody poo-poos that, it's like, okay, this person's maybe not right in the head, or they've got some other ideas going on, but I'm going to serve my neighbor, and the neighbor is not the person, not your best friend, typically is what the Bible says, not the person who can pay you back, but it's those people who can't pay you back, or those people who may be or have ill will towards you.
That's where the impact happens.
Yeah. Yes.
I even think, too, when we talk about social media and how it can produce fruit, but we also have to be careful not to dive into how the world responds to things. And so even when Rob had this comment happen, your team, right, your tribe wants to rally like, oh, my gosh, I can't believe they said that. And we all as a team were talking, and I said, how are we going to be any different from the rest of the world if we just feed into the hatred and the anger that the individual has? And I says, I say we stay out of it in Rob's comments and see how God works and how it transpires. And it ended up being that other people were rallying Rob.
That's awesome.
Yeah, they started commenting, and he's like, I don't even have to do anything. And everything that Rob responded with was in total love. It was like he was covering the guy with love. He wasn't tearing the guy down. He was just speaking truth. And I'm like, that's how we shine our light of Christ, is don't react like the world would react.
Right.
If anything, stay quiet, right? And cover them with love. But if we're like, you need Jesus, I'm sure that's not going to be the winning thing. It's the Lord's battle at that point, right?
Yeah,
it's how are we responding? So we're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, I want you to share with our listeners what you shared with me about things you went through, even in your own personal life, transitions of life. That's how I'm going to give the little plug, the little carrot is, how do we handle the transitions of life as we age? So we'll be right back with you in just a moment.
Hey, Godwink listeners. This is Denise from My Hair Growth Clinic, where I help both men and women facing hair thinning, shedding, bald spots, or scalp issues. Whether it's caused by hormones like postpartum or thyroid issues, stress, surgery, sickness, or genetics, I offer real solutions that get to the root of the problem. Using advanced treatment like low-light therapy, targeted products, and personalized care plans, I've helped many clients restore their hair and confidence right here in my Christ-centered clinic. At My Hair Growth Clinic, I walk with you every step of the way. Ready to take the first step toward hair renewal? Visit myhairgrowthclinic.com or click the link within today's podcast notes to book your private consultation today. Don't forget to mention the God Wink podcast to receive a 10% discount on products and services. Change is great, but confidence, that's everything.
Welcome back, listeners, to the God Wink podcast. I am sitting here with Cory Dunham, and we are just having a fireside chat about being bold in our faith and how God meets us on the other side of it as we walk in obedience to what he's called us to. And I had asked Cory that you would share with us some transition that you went through and really just share with us how you see God winking at you through this process, even when it's tough. Tell us a little bit about what you went through.
Yeah, just over the last couple of years, 2023, and that everything's kind of going along just fine. And a couple of things that I may not have mentioned to you beforehand, but I think in April of 23, we just paid off our house in just under 12 years.
Wow, in 12 years?
Yeah, just under.
Wow.
Focus and sacrifice, and I can't stand debt, even I hear some debt is good. But that was an amazing thing. And then almost exactly a month later in May, my sister died of a head-on car accident. She's just a year older than me, and that was extremely sudden, huge, devastating impact on all of us. Like, what in the world? Just sent us reeling for a long period of time. And I still have, I think like many people, I still have interest to give her a call once in a while. Like, oh yeah, because we would touch base here and there about this or that, or text each other. And I still have that idea in my head. I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't believe she's gone, because it's still so sudden after a couple years.
Yeah.
But I think we're mending really well, and God has been good through that. It's also, with that, it's increased our family. So her kids also want more interaction of extended family, which is, I think, a blessing from that, instead of just we all stay distant. So that was, like I said, April paid off my house. My sister passed away in May. So some of that, too, was a psychological thing with my head of, oh, gee, every time something good happens, something bad happens. And I think I've been in that terrible cycle, which is not the truth and what God wants. But, God uses all things for his will. And even though things may be bad to us, that may be a huge blessing or something he's going to work out. So that happened in May. My sister passed away. And then the next month is pretty much when all of a sudden, with my wife and I being married, roughly 24 years at that time, all of a sudden she was gone. It felt like 8 days a week. She was just never home. And all of a sudden, I'm like, what's going on?
She was still working?
That's kind of a funny thing. A couple of things, which is very difficult, is a lot of people I talk to, my kids are having a hard time. They're like, where's mom? What's going on? And my kids are, we're in high school and college, so not like they're young kids, but they noticed something was up. And she wasn't communicating like she usually would. And she was just gone. So I think there's some anxiety in there. Didn't know what was going on. But I've had a journey. I haven't been the best throughout this whole situation, especially early on, because I didn't know what was going on. And a lot of people, like I was thinking, I'm like, geez, is my wife cheating on me?
Yeah, all the thoughts.
Yeah. And most of that we get through social media and everything that's out there in the media. And so I really didn't know. So I don't know to this day everything that's going on, but I truly believe that she was not cheating, because that's just not her DNA. And we weren't fighting. Nothing was going on. I was planning on riding off into the sunset over the next 10 years into retirement. But that started happening, and I'm like, oh my gosh, what's going on? And she just needed to be gone every single day. And then she also, as I laughed at earlier, she also, she works as a speech therapist in the school system during the year. She also works at a German restaurant on the west side of Ann Arbor 3 times a week part-time.
Wow.
Mainly helping them out through the pandemic, and then just stayed on. She's only supposed to be working maybe 1 or 2 days, but she ended up staying on. And then she started a new business, like a side gig, like a food truck, but it's a beverage service business. And then she also picked up extra speech therapy clients. So technically that was 1 full-time job and 3 part-time jobs.
Dang.
Plus doing errands and everything else.
She wasn't sitting watching Netflix series?
No. She was not around. She was not around. But throughout all of this, early on when I was really frustrated, didn't understand, we didn't communicate much, she ended up saying early on to me that she's like, yeah, I'm not sure what's up. I just don't feel right. I don't feel good. And she says, one of my friends said, oh, that sounds like menopause. And both she and I had just dismissed it. I'm like, what the heck is menopause except hot sweats and mood swings? Like, I think what most people think. And after my research, after talking to a number of people, I haven't talked to any doctors. I've just done research with books, talked with a number of ladies, and they've said, yep, they've had similar symptoms or have seen other people do the same kind of thing when it came to having, additional symptoms of up to, I saw one video I thought that said there's over 70 symptoms from menopause or could be related. Yeah, and at least a lot of them are pretty close on average saying there's 30 plus. So regardless, most people only know 2 to 5 different symptoms, but there's everything from anxiety, which explains possibly what was going on with my wife. And once again, she's not here for her side of things. So I'm just totally saying this from my perspective, what I found out. But other ladies have been helpful. And then even this book like that I brought, and they recommended this one book, said, hey, check out this one book called The Wisdom of Menopause, which is, they've called it the Bible of menopause because I believe there's over 729 pages.
Yeah, this thing, listeners, is super duper thick.
Looks like a Bible, doesn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow.
But through my journey of learning and trying to understand my wife and looking more toward God, and including earlier in the show when you were talking about Rob and kind of somebody not being so positive on there. I look at that also too. I've had to change my mind with this too, that in the past I used to look at when I heard a siren from an ambulance or something, I'm like, oh, too bad for them. That's kind of what I would think, or I wouldn't think anything of it. I was like, oh, something bad is going on. And then I had to swap that just a few years ago. I was like, no, that's an opportunity or a warning signal for me to pray.
Yeah.
To start praying for those people. And
that's good.
Everything. Yeah, and I was thinking the same way when you said, here's an opportunity for Rob to share love or show love or expect love and appreciation for this person.
Yeah.
And that we don't know what everybody's going through. Maybe they're reaching out. And just a quick side note on this story, if I can share this too. I was on a Jericho walk, which we did in Ann Arbor. Somebody puts it on, but basically we march a quarter mile around the block singing hymns. And it was for this kind of around this abortion clinic. So just talking about pro-life and these babies and, all this stuff and just protecting them. And I only did it one time. It was about a year ago, but we ended up being at this corner, this light. I think this was a God wink, and this was just God, his hand and all of it. But we ended up being at this corner, waiting for the light to change after we sang a couple of songs. But it felt like we were there for about 20 minutes. But I don't think we were. But this one worker walks up to the corner trying to cross the light, and this light is just not changing for them to cross the street.
She's stuck.
Yeah, yes. And this person called themselves Mars. So they were, I don't know if it's transgender. I don't, it could be LGBTQ in some form or shape. I don't know. But they call themselves Mars. And as they sat there, you can see them getting irritated and agitated at the light. And then finally, after a few moments, they turned around. Why do you guys want to bring kids in this terrible world and not allow women to have choice with their bodies, blah, blah, blah. And a couple other people came over and just talked with them and say, hey, no, here's why we do this, and this is coming from God and Christ, and here's why we believe this and why we're doing this, because these kids don't have a choice, at this point. So they explained to them, and then as we started to move on to the next part, to sing at a different corner, I kind of stayed along, and I just said, hey, are you open to have a longer conversation, open chat with this? And I said, you don't have to, I understand. But I said, are you open to that? And they said, well, I guess so. Do you have a card? And so I gave them my card, and come to find out, they never did contact me. They said, oh, I'll contact you, email you later on tonight. But that's okay. But as we left, they were trying to cross the street to get lunch. at the gas station or something, but it never happened, like I said, because of the conversation, plus that light just never seemed to change.
Wow.
It was just weird. I'm sure it might have changed, but it took too long
I
for
could
the
just
lunch
see
break.
like an angel we don't see that is next to the switch and they're grinning.
Yeah.
Like,
This does not work anymore for the next few moments. Yes, we are on pause.
oh man.
Yeah, so that ended up happening, and I realized, they didn't get their lunch because they ended up just going back to work, never crossed the street. So I ended up stopping by their store because I noticed the shirt they were wearing, which is the name of the store. I just went in there. I said, hey, do you have a quick moment? And they're like, oh, yeah, why? What's going on? And I said, well, I know she didn't get lunch, but I said, I'd be happy to buy you something, no strings attached. But just I realized you missed lunch because of our conversations out there. But if you'd like for me to, I'd be happy to. And they said, no, I appreciate it, but no, there's no need, but I'll email you tonight.
Wow.
So nothing ever came of that. But the whole idea of my thinking was that just we didn't come at them in a negative, harsh, in-your-face way.
Yeah.
But just the whole idea of just showing love and compassion for them.
Yeah.
Because Mars did mention that they did grow up in the church, but it sounds like there are some things in the church that turned them off as to how people love people, and they didn't get the right message of Christ's message. So that was just one instance of a situation where it's kind of alarms going off or having an interaction with someone. They don't have to agree, but hopefully they felt the presence of God there.
Right.
Yeah.
Just embracing each moment in a gentle way.
Yes.
Versus like you think of picketers, like people that are picketing.
Right.
It's just this abrasive piece to it. But God's like, no, I've called you to come in love.
Yes.
Right? Like, see them as I see them. Do you ever ask yourself for the Lord to show you, like, help you see that person, maybe you're even challenged with? See them the way Christ sees them. I've prayed that.
I haven't thought of that, but that's amazing. I try to do that once in a while, but the way you said it is just sounds so powerful.
Yeah, because it's like it takes the sting out of any frustration that you may have.
Yes.
And just humbles you back to say, Lord, help me see them the way you see them, because we're all children of God. We have to think that, because we don't really know like what's happening in the spirit realm, right?
Right.
So we just make that assumption of help me to love them, help me to see them the way you see them. And they're assuming at that location that we're just going to be abrasive. Oh, you're killing babies, because that's what the news puts on there.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
But there's plenty of people like you that are going the other route and saying, hey, would you be open to a conversation sometime?
Yes.
With no push.
Yep.
So
yeah, it's
powerful. Well,
Yep.
I wanted to, I know we're closing in on our time. I can relate, I'm going to say, with the things you went through with you and your wife. I know when we spoke about the podcast, when you mentioned this, I literally, these past few weeks, have been going through this process. I cry at the drop of a hat. My husband doesn't know how to navigate it. I just told him I got some hormonal imbalances and I'm sorry. Whatever I do that seems off and not like me, I apologize, and I'm trying to get to the root of it. And it's so hard and tough. You could be married. We've been married 21 years, and you think, you know how to navigate the waters, but it's still a mystery. But in the end, he always says to me, like, are you okay? Like, in a loving way. And I'm like, I'm good. But he knows not to ask more because I'll crack. Like, it makes the Band-Aid go,
Yeah.
I'll start crying. But I think it's important that, especially with our, anyone listening going through this, is to go get checked. I went in yesterday. They did 5 tubes of blood just to figure out what the hormone levels are at, what my thyroid's at, ultrasound and an OBGYN. We are looking, listeners, to have an OBGYN come on and share a little bit of subject matter expertise, because me and Cory don't have it. We just have experience of going through loved ones that do.
Yep.
But I encourage people, don't sit on it. I know as women, you put yourself last oftentimes, and it's time that you have peace of mind to know what's going on. There was one other. See, this is the senior moment of the thought left. No, it's back. Okay, it's back. Cory, you and I was sharing with you of the transformation of life. We go in, we're born as a baby, obviously. Okay. Then we're a teenager. What do teenagers have? Hormones. I've got 2 of them. So they go through that cycle of life of hormones, right? And as a parent, you're trying to be sensitive and help them through that. And then you have this little tiny section of your life where you don't have hormones, right? But you are raising kids. And then what happens, people? It goes in reverse, right? Now you've got hormones because you're going through menopause. And then you're elderly and you become the baby again.
Yes.
I told you, Cory, I was like, I never even thought about that. I'm like, oh my goodness, life goes in reverse.
Yes.
But I think that it is not focused on enough. And you told me this, Cory, that people, they study it for maybe 2 years in the medical field.
I heard one doctor say, I believe in Canada, say that they only get 2 years of training on menopause and women in their 40s to 50s.
Which doesn't help the healthcare system.
No, it's a very minimal piece, and a lot of women are dealing with these symptoms. Like I said, I don't know for sure with my wife, but I think everything is in alignment from what I've seen.
Yeah.
But with these symptoms, some women start their menopausal journey early in their early 40s, but typically it's around 51, 52 years old. But there's sometimes no warning, like what's going on? I have dry skin.
Yeah.
Like I said, and if this causes, which it can in some women, some depression and anxiety, and that's just coming on, and you have no idea why, that's a huge confusing process, I'm assuming, for a woman. And then if you're going through this by yourself, you're not seeking help or talking to anybody, and then especially if you're not communicating with your husband like your husband did with you, or you communicated with him first, but just say, hey, things are going on. And that's one of the biggest things I think that's been challenging with my wife and I, is that we haven't communicated as much about this. And she's been just, hey, this is my deal and I'll deal with it. And it's like, no, it affects me. It affects our kids. It affects your job, everything around you.
Yeah.
So I think if more of us are willing to open up about normal human bodily functions, not in such an immature way that us guys tend to do. But the challenge is, too, as men, in the past, I wasn't probably in the place of even listening if she had mentioned this. So, no, it's all about me. It's all about the intimacy and the physical stuff. Nope, I just want what I want. You figure out your stuff. But I've changed over time. I wasn't that in your face about it, but I know I probably wasn't in a space to be a good listener and be a good supporter like I should be.
Yeah. And you said such a sweet thing, too, when you told me about this, is how do you not care for a woman that sacrificed her life raising kids and going through all of that to, it may not be pretty and fun going through the hormone inflections, but God said for better or worse.
Yes.
For poor, right?
Yes. Yep.
We are all going to go through different things, and we need to do the best that we can to support the ones we love.
Yeah, and I think, like you said earlier, looking through Christ and at Christ into other people, looking at through that lens. And I've had to do the same thing with this situation that's been challenging for me. And I think I've gone through some anxiety and depression at times. When I look back, I'm like, oh my gosh, I think I was, because I was so low on energy, didn't have passion for anything. But it's caused me to walk and look toward Christ on almost everything and not just take things for granted, but say, no, and even if this is a challenge I'm going through, I also think, okay, Christ, how are you using me through this to both help my situation, but also to help others? So not just the impact on me, but others. And if this can help people.
Yeah. He's starting a men's group for women with menopause. No, just kidding.
Well, as we talked, I could give a perspective on how men feel through this, and especially if we're in the dark and not knowing you're going through all this. And most women I've talked to about this, that after what I've learned, that if I found what was true to over 70 or over 30 plus symptoms from menopause, most women, their jaws hang open when I tell them. So I feel like I'm educating a lot of women, because they only know, because nobody's talking about it. And they only know
I thought I had high blood pressure when my legs were hot at night, and I'm like, wait a minute. This ain't it.
Yeah. And there could be other reasons, of course, as we age. There's other things going on, but that's one thing, that if we know women are transitioning through this situation, and we're all transitioning, whether it's empty nester,
Yeah.
We're getting old or whatever's going on. We have to give grace to each other and realize, okay, there's more to the story here than that's at the surface level.
Yep. That hormonal woman might be wiping your butt when you're elderly.
I never thought about that. Thanks. Can we edit that out?
Yeah.
No, that's very true, though. That's very true.
Well, Cory, share with our listeners the best way that they can connect with you.
Yeah, the best way would be on LinkedIn. I have an account on LinkedIn, and also I have a phone number, 734-219-5234. And they could also reach me on my website, which is corydunham.com, CORYDUNHAM.com.
See, even at his age, he can go through the teenager hormone inflections in vocals.
I was thinking that too, because as I found out too, women can also through menopause have joint pain and other things, and muscle and skin changes. I'm like, oh my gosh, I think I'm going through menopause.
Yeah.
I might need some HRTs or hormone replacement.
Yeah.
So.
You know what? It's kind of like when your wife is pregnant and you go through the symptoms of eating a bunch of food.
Oh, yes. Sympathy pains or something, whatever that is.
Yeah.
Yes. Awesome.
Well, listeners, I encourage you, if today's episode really resonates with you, maybe you feel like you need to take a little visit to the OBGYN to see what's going on. Just highly recommend it. Or if you know of someone that may be going through this tough time, please share the episode with them to give them just a ray of hope that they're not the only one going through some weird stuff. It's a part of life, and we can learn from one another, like Cory said. So other than that, guys, we look forward to hearing. I'm not hearing you. You're hearing me. Look forward to having you listen in on the next God Wink. I want to give a big thank you to Office Evolution Troy for providing their podcast studio for us this afternoon to record. If you have any questions or you would like to book your own time in their podcast studio, give them a call at 586-788-9966. If today's God Wink story really hit home with you, we would love to hear about it through the God Wink community on Facebook. If you know of someone that needs to hear today's God Wink story, show them some love and tag them on the God Wink podcast. You never know how a God Wink story might change their day around for the better. If you or someone you know has a God Wink story that the world needs to hear, we want to hear it. Simply click the link within the podcast notes to send in your God Wink story. Until next time, remember, God's got you. Wink, wink.